From the Gateway Pundit, breaking exclusive, multiple reversals and proportional vote entries in Virginia on election night after 11 p.m. indicate election fraud occurred in this state too. By Joe Hoft, published November 15th, 2020 at 8:10 p.m. I'm doing this video because it was retweeted by Lynn Wood. Let's begin. There's something going on. The Virginia results in the 2020 election for president gave Joe Biden a 2.4 million vote lead over President Trump's 2.0 million votes. What's odd and needs investigating is how the election ended up this way. No one seems to be questioning the votes in Virginia, but they should be. There are multiple reasons why the Virginia results in the 2020 presidential election should be investigated. Virginia's election results started coming in shortly after the polls closed on Election Day. There were 378 separate entries or feeds related to Virginia found in the file obtained and shared around the web from the New York Times since a few days after the election. The New York Times data feed shows all the entries from the New York Times for the presidential election at a state-by-state level. This data does not include county or precinct level data feeds. One oddity in the file noted immediately is that the results for votes are not in whole integers, e.g., 1, 2, 3. All of the entries have fractional amounts. This makes no sense, since ballots do not come in fractions in the US. Each vote equals one vote. The first 125 entries reported in the New York Times data feed were basically reasonable. The results varied in percentage of votes between presidential candidates and appeared to be random, with most votes going to President Trump. Up through this time, 11:03 Eastern, President Trump was leading 52% to Biden's 46%. At this time, 3.3 million of the eventual 4.4 million votes had already been cast, or about 75% of the vote was in. This is when things went off the rails. 8 entries, totaling nearly 800,000 votes, were removed from the database during this time. This makes no sense. Each vote should be added to the vote totals, not taken away. Overall, 3 entries of over 300,000 votes were posted in the database to Biden's vote total. 2 entries of over 300,000 votes were taken away. The same happened to President Trump's totals, but in much smaller amounts. Overall, 851,000 votes were added to Biden's totals, and only 318,000 were awarded to President Trump between 11:14 p.m. Eastern on November 3rd and 5 a.m. November 4th. This resulted in over 500,000 more votes net going to Biden and 73% of the votes during this time frame. What's really odd about these entries are the huge negative entries. One entry taking away 330,153.54 votes from Biden and 37,510.39 from Trump appears to have reversed an entry a few minutes around midnight. Then at 12:26 and 12:30 a.m., an entry in the amount of 308,341.59 from Biden and 80,357.05 from Trump was posted and reversed. The exact same amounts. A few hours later, another 230,000 votes net were added to Biden's lead. These reversing entries look like adjusting entries. Anyone in the accounting profession is aware of entries posted in error that are reversed and replaced with proper entries and amounts. Why the hell would Virginia need to make these types of entries in their voting system? There really is no logical reason. except for fraud. After these entries noted above were recorded, nearly every entry made into the system for the presidential election had the same proportion of votes of Biden to Trump. This too is not reasonable. There is nothing random about this. It is highly, highly unlikely that the results of all these entries would be at the same proportion. This too indicates fraud. In summary, after 11 p.m. on election day, nearly 70% of the votes recorded in Virginia went to Biden. This includes hundreds of thousands of negative votes and late votes that all had the same proportion of Biden to Trump. These entries indicate election fraud occurred in Virginia.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.